right. I am so excited. Listeners, you got to check out who we have with us today. She's become a very dear friend of mine, but let me give her official introduction. Nicole Crank and her husband David, they're bloggers, published authors, and founders and lead pastors of faithchurch.com. And if you think that's it, that's not it. They have 4 church campuses, St. Louis, Missouri, and 2 in Florida, West Palm Beach. And oh my gosh, I am just telling you, I've only known you, I think, for maybe 2 months now. And it was because a whole lot of people on my team were reading your book, Hi God, It's Me. And I'm like, who is this lady and what's she feeding my people, And so I had to pick up your book to make sure that they were getting good doctrine. And yet I just was incredibly drawn in. And then one of our leaders introduced me to you, and I'm so glad that she did. Nicole, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here on a lot of levels. I almost missed meeting you. And honestly, I owe it to somebody on your team and my son. Somebody on your team posted about the book, and my son said, "Hey, did you see that post?" And I'm like, "Oh, I think I did." He's like, "Mom, you need to go look at it and respond to her." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I responded to the post. And she said, "Hey, I have this group. We journal with your book." So I said, "Hey, I'd be willing to jump on one day." And so that's where I originally, I think, ran into you the very first time. And I'm like, God has an amazing way of really letting all these little things. I don't know if you knew this or not, but the word coincidence was not in the original language in the Bible.
No.
It's not even there. It is not a Hebrew word because they don't believe in coincidence. So
me neither. I believe in divine appointments. Well, it was funny because I was booked solid that day, and the gal reached out to me and said, "Hey, I happen to have Nicole jumping on our power hour today. Would you like to get on?" At first I was like, "I'm sorry, I can't." And then I went, you know what? Not only is her book popping up everywhere, now she's jumping on a call with my team. What's this lady up to? So I was on as a spy first, but the minute you opened your mouth, I was like, oh, she's my kind of girl. You just, the way the words roll off the tip of your tongue, and you were emphatic about certain things and also very transparent. I could tell your vibe is very transparent, and this is what I am, which I think is extremely relatable. So I kind of gave your official titles and all the things that you guys, the accolades you're starting to build up. But can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Well, sometimes people are like, pastor, or, oh, she has a TV show. It's like, oh, sainted, blah, blah, blah. I'm not even going to like her. Just plastic. Must have been born with a silver spoon in her mouth. And I didn't have a silver spoon. I had one of those plastic sporks, like from Kentucky Fried Chicken, only like 2 of the tongs.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that. So I was given up by my dad in Canada before I was born. I was adopted in the US by my stepdad when I was 3. I was present at the wedding of my dad and my mom, but for some reason, I guess as a kid, I thought that was normal. Because when I found out that I was adopted in 4th grade, it was kind of like, wait a minute, what? Huh? That's not my dad? How? And I was very confused. And 4th grade was really a wild year in my life because it's the year I found out I was adopted, which threw me for a loop. It's the year I met Jesus on the living room floor of my house as my mom read me a book with no words, just colored about how our sin is as black as night, but the blood of Jesus is red and it washes us white as snow. And we walk on the streets of gold. And she told me this story, and I just cried on the living room floor because I couldn't believe that a God would love me so much that he would do that. So I found Jesus that year, and that's also the year I was molested. The molestation, I didn't know what to do with that as a kid. And I think there was enough going on in my life that I just kept it inside for about a year. And a year later, I finally told one of my best friends, but I didn't really think the plan through at 10 years old, all the way through my strategies at 10 years old. And I didn't realize what a 5th grade little girl does with a secret. And she told everybody, and we lived in a little 1-horse town. We were in the little 1-horse town. We're still the poor people. Our brand new car, taking me back. It's when station wagons were popular with the wood grain on the side. So that was a really cool vehicle, except for our new car. One side of it was sideswiped. We got it used because it had been wrecked. And I'm like, Mom, you can't pick me up from school. So we were poor in a 1-horse town. She told everybody what happened. And there wasn't a term for what I walked through junior high in that point in life. And I walked through what now is known as bullying.
I was going to say cyberbullying at its finest, right? But yes, bullying for sure.
But these were actual kids on the bus standing over you, saying terrible things, and stories take on lives of their own. And for 3 years, I was just a mess. I didn't have friends. I wanted to be alone. My parents got prank calls. They didn't know what they were about. I acted like I didn't know. And I was actually raped by someone doing community service in our junior high. And at that point, I knew I'm not going to tell anybody. And he actually admitted to me when it was done. He said, I only did that because of everything I heard about you. He said, but I don't think it's all true. And I'm like, no, it's not true. And, because I don't know what he had all heard, but, it's like, he obviously thought that was going to be okay. And then we moved. And when we moved to a new high school, to a new county, to a new district, to a new city, I got a fresh start. And I didn't realize that boys could think I was cute, that people were going to want to be friends with me. So they would invite me to a party and be like, hey, you can come to this party, but like, we're going to be drinking. Is that cool? I'm like, no, I'm cool. Boys like, hey, I want you to come with me, but like, I want you to be my girlfriend, and my girlfriend's going to kiss me. And I'm like, I'm cool. I just wanted to be invited to the party. And I ended up student council president. I ended up in the National Honor Society. I was a varsity cheerleader and a lead in the school play, and a pregnant unwed mother at 17 years old. So I felt a lot like life had failed me to that point. And right about the time things got back on track, I failed me. And then I just knew I had too much baggage. Nobody would ever want somebody like me. And I did not marry the father, my son, Austin, who, there's silver lining, the one who told me to check out who is this post. He just turned 30 this year. He is a campus pastor over our West Palm Beach campuses. He's our executive pastor over all of Florida. And he's about to give me my first grandbaby here in a couple days.
It's a perfect, God uses all things. And I know you'll kind of get to that a little bit, but so do you want to keep going with that story? Or you want me to dive into some of your boss stuff too?
Well, there's one more little piece.
Okay.
So when I finally did find somebody who was just so interested in me, and I'll leave out the details of the story, but it's a crazy story. One day it'll probably be a movie, and I don't know who should play me, somebody cuter than me. Anyway, so
I was going to say Sandra Bullock.
I would take it. I'll take Sandra Bullock. But he had all the right medical initials after his name. He was a bodybuilder. He had high cheekbones. He was good looking. And what I didn't realize, he was on prescription medication to keep him awake and asleep at the right time for all his shifts at the hospital. And that had led to cocaine, which he said everybody used at the hospital to stay awake. And that led to crack cocaine. And he used crack cocaine for the first time on my birthday. It was the year of the Oklahoma City bombing. I'll never forget, because Oklahoma City blew up and so did my life. And he disappeared for a few days. And when he came back, it was the first time he abused me. And he herniated my C7. He broke my rib. We had several different restraining orders as we went through rehab. We went through reconciliation and then relapse. And so I'm writing a book. Actually, it comes out in June. It's being carried by one of the top 5 publishers in America. I'm very, very nervous about the whole thing. But because I'm really diving into my story and kind of all of the things that happened so that other people can avoid the very pitfalls that I fell into. And I ended up having to run away, hide from him. He started stalking me, ended up getting a divorce and not thinking anybody could really ever want me then. And then the best thing that ever happened to me, which is my husband came along, and then ministry, and then God, and then platform, then opportunity. And why do I share all of that? I share all of that because as we're getting ready to look towards our futures, your past does not define your future. Your past is not a place of residency. Your past is a place of experience. It's a place of learned wisdom. And if you can use your pain as your platform, that's actually the thing that God asked me to do. He said, if you can use your pain as your platform, because I specifically was like, I'm never talking about any of this again, period, book closed, over. I am a vault. And God pressed on my heart. Every time you tell God what you're not going to do, that's usually what he asks you to do. In case you're wondering, is God speaking me or leading me to do this thing? Well, if you don't want to do it, probably. And that's when he told me your pain is going to be a platform, and what was meant to kill you is the very thing you're going to stand upon.
That's amazing. It's funny you say that because obviously I started my business in 2006. Now, at that time, I would tell my entire team for the next several years, your past does not define you. You are not your past. You can't move forward if you're still looking back, blah, 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 blah. And then I went through my divorce in 2016. And immediately I was like, there goes my platform. There goes my opportunity to bring people to Christ. Like here I am, a Christian that is going through divorce, and, we don't do that, right? Like all the things that are in your head, and yet Nicole, God is so good. Like within the very next time I went on an outing with over 20 women, it had cleared out to about 6 or 7 because the night was getting late. And all of a sudden it was like all of a sudden they were surrounding me on all sides. And I was like, what is happening right now? And they're like, tell us how to save our marriages. And it was in that moment, God had answered that question for me, that he was going to use it to help me have that much greater of a platform. So I agree completely. And I know that people can't move forward if they don't work through that, and if they don't accept that, it's going to hold them back for a long, long time. I don't like that you said the very thing that you say you're not going to do is what God makes you do, because I told you before this started, I'm not doing online dating. I'm not doing it. I got on for like a week and I was like, yeah, no, that's not my thing. Swiping. I was like, this is so much rejection. It's not even funny, but I'm trusting the timing, and that's one of my goals, which I know you're going to talk to us about today. So, what I love about your background too is you didn't just go from this background in this past and meeting your dream man to the church world. You had a little step in between where you were a boss lady, like business boss lady. Tell us about that for a minute.
Well, my ex-husband was it was a Fortune 500 medical company, and I ended up in the same Fortune 500 medical company. I was in my 20s and I had become their marketing director. So I was a marketing director for a Fortune 500 medical company, and I had to quit my job. I took a leave of absence because he was showing up. They would come to my office and say, your ex-husband is in the parking lot trying to steal your car. What do you want to do? And so when I had to disappear. So I had to reemerge into the corporate world after all of that was over. And I got into sales and telecommunication. And that was a very profitable industry back in the 90s.
Big time.
Back in the 90s. And I found my way into national and key accounts, and I found myself able to get indoors that other people couldn't get in. And honestly, I'd like to tell you that it's extreme talent, that it's the favor of God, that I can sell ice to Eskimos. But the truth of the matter is, if you want to know how I made the president's trip every year, how the CEO knew my name, I'll tell you exactly how I did it. And that is, the company's rules were you make 20 cold calls a day. And most of the people didn't. And I did. And occasionally I made more. And I'd like to tell you, I made 50% more. I'm a 10X person. I'd love to tell you all that stuff, but I really just did what I was told to do as a minimum. And most people, and here's the thing with the goals, you and I were talking about the goals book. And you're like, a lot of times you walk people through step 1 and you don't get them any further, and is that so they get the book? It's like, no, because people will get real focused for a minute. They'll write stuff on a piece of paper. They'll chuck it somewhere. And then 6 months later, a year later, they'll be like, I wrote some goals somewhere. Gosh, that thing must not work. And it's not true. It does work. And I lead you step by step. And none of it's hard. It's like 20 cold calls a day doesn't sound hard. 20 cold calls a day isn't hard. You just have to sit down and do it. And it takes about an hour. And it yielded, there were months that I would make $100,000 a month as a salesperson, biggest commission checks in my company. But what did it boil down to? 20 cold calls a day. That was it. Keep the funnel full.
Well, so you've had the business world experience, but now you're a pastor, you're a lead pastor, you're a speaker, and obviously a blogger, author, and all the things, coach, I would even say. I've been doing goals now for well over a decade, and obviously have crushed some pretty big goals, but I enjoyed reading the beginning of your book because there were some things I'd never done. Or here's another way to look at it. I just finished The Dream Giver by Bruce Wilkinson, and I believe we go through those phases of dreaming and then we have a choice. Do we want to do it again? Because I can promise you this, many of our listeners right now have already hit every goal on their dream board and they get the optional choice of, do I want to dream again? Now I realize many are also here because they're getting started on their journey, but I know there's many that have already crushed everything and it's getting started again. What this was so powerful for me, Nicole, was being able to like do that little 3-minute thing, which I know we're going to get to here in a minute. And you guys, just so you know, I said, Nicole, we cannot give them the whole cliff notes of the book right here because they gotta get the book. The book is great, and all your cute little stories, all the scripture that is provided in it, it's super powerful. And you know, so much of it is things I believed in and implemented, but there was just a few little things here and there that I was like, I've never done that, and I'm really excited to do that. And I've been saying my I am current goals now for probably 6 days. And so I'm doing my 30-day challenge. But here's the deal too. We have a lot of believers on this. We have a lot of believers that follow us. And I believe sometimes based on what you were brought up in, I know it was really hard for me to think big because I felt like that wasn't Christian, or I felt like, you know, like, who am I? Or I already have so much. How could I ask for more? You know, so all those things too. And I just feel like you just like break all that down. And so I'm excited about this process. I'm excited what you have to teach us. So I want to make sure you're doing most of the talking, and I'm talking a lot right now. So get us started a bit on this process, why we need to do this.
Well, let's hit the Christian thing first, which I feel a little bit confident about because I'm a pastor. If you're not a Christian, give me 2 seconds. I'll deal with your lack of self-confidence and your doubts and your fears in just a second. But honestly, it's kind of all linked together. A lot of us feel like we don't deserve it. And especially once you get more, it's the same thing. You feel like, I don't deserve any more. Like, wouldn't that be greedy let's just think about impactful people. Mother Teresa's impactful. Jesus was impactful. So let's talk about Jesus for a second. What if he came to earth and said, well, I'm supposed to be this icon of humility. So really, I don't need this attention. I don't need bigger crowds. I don't need to speak to more people. I shouldn't travel and speak because what are people going to think if I travel and speak? Oh, if I bring this entourage of 12 guys, actually it's 70, but I keep the 12 close and these 3 guys go with me everywhere. If I travel with 70 people everywhere, aren't people going to be like, he rented out the whole floor at the hotel? Hello. No, if he hadn't have done those things, he wouldn't have been who he was, and he wouldn't have fulfilled his call. So let's talk about Peter. Peter is this slacking fisherman who can't even catch fish, right? He should be setting goals to, you know, I'm going to catch at least 1 boat full of large fish that I can sell at best market price every day. I am going to, you know, those should have been his goals, right? Not, I'm going to be a fisher of men, not of people, because I mean, that's too much. I can't have a platform. People can't seek me out. Why would people put me in the front of the synagogue to speak? I'm not a rabbi, because the training to become a rabbi, extremely intense. You had to have the Pentateuch memorized. I mean, you can't do that. He didn't have the Pentateuch memorized. He doesn't qualify, but God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. And here's why. The Bible says without faith, it's impossible to please God. And so what does that mean? You have to really boil that down. What does that mean? Without faith, it's impossible to please God. That means if your dream is not big enough to scare you, it's not big enough to please God. So let's go into insecurities, doubts, and fears. Let me use that same sentence. If your dream is not big enough to scare you, you're probably not dreaming big enough. If you can put down 10 goals and you can accomplish them all in your own power today, that means you don't grow at all. That means you don't risk at all. That means you don't challenge yourself at all. That means you don't push at all. So really, these nice, tidy 10 goals that you can get, forget checking them off the list. You got to stretch them out, and they got to scare you a little bit. And that's actually one of the reasons why there's a time limit that's set on how long you can think about your goals while you're setting them.
That's good. Okay, so talk to me about that, because I did that the other day. And here's the deal. I've done this many times, but also I feel like as I've been in the wilderness in certain phases of my life, it was just really hard to dream. You know, I was in a lot of pain. I would say recovery from the broken marriage, from some of the pain of the marriage, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I even had a miscarriage, and there was like a season of months where that I was probably clinically depressed, but didn't know that, you know? So I just feel like we're all in seasons. And so no matter what season you're in right now, even if you still got half your goals to accomplish, do this anyways. Do this anyways. Don't you think it's important to always revisit this? And I like to do this in the fall of the year ahead, as well as multiple times throughout the year. But I'm just saying for sure, I like to plan for the year ahead in like October. You know, that's kind of my time where I get ready.
I'm typically a planner like that as well. Most of America, December, January.
Or December 29th or January 5th, right? Like, what do I want to do this year?
Most goals products are purchased in December and January because that's when most people think about it. But I want to challenge you and tell you that your 12-month goals don't have to be based on a calendar year. A lot of companies don't even base their finances on a calendar year. They have this thing called a fiscal year. Basically, it means a financial year. And it starts whenever they want it to, and it ends whenever they want it to. And a lot of them intentionally don't put it on the calendar because the calendar ends with a holiday and begins with a holiday. And there's this gray and fuzzy time. So a lot of companies do July to July, September to September. They start Q2, Q3, or Q4 for their fiscal year. So your goals year can start at any point in time. Your goals year does not need to start on January 1. So if you get the goal getters method, if you start writing this stuff down right now, I would encourage you, go ahead and start on your goals right now. Why? Well, it gives you a jump on everybody else. Number two, if you write your 2021 goals right now, you have more time to accomplish them. But once you accomplish your goals, you absolutely must dream again. Why? Why must I dream again? I mean, check, got married, got the house, got the car, got the dog, got the baby, you know, financially comfortable. Why do you have to dream again? Because without faith, it is impossible to please God. And let me ask you this. Do you want to stay where you're at as a human, or do you want to grow? That's actually one of the top 10 resolutions that people make. They want to lose weight. They want to make more money. They want to read more. They want to get closer to God. They want to have a better marriage. They want to, it's the same things every single year, and they're fuzzy and they're out there, but they want to grow as a person. They want to read more. That's two things that people always say as a New Year's resolution, but they're not specific. They're not timed. They're not dated. They're not said in the past or present tense. They're not written down, and therefore they're not accomplished. Only 3% of people in all of America actually write their goals down. So if you write your goals down, you're already in the top 3% of Americans. And Dr. Gail Matthews did a study, and she said, if you write your goals down, that simple step, you're 42% more likely to accomplish your goals. Mm-hmm. And when you write your goals down, I'm going to challenge you not to do this, because this is what we do a lot. Now, I will tell you right now, at my fingertips, I have my goals available. If I go into Evernote and I go into my notebooks, though they changed it all around. So give me 1 second, because they just updated the app. I've got a whole file right there called goals, right? And if you open my goals file, you start looking at different years, right? So I keep them all in one place. But when I write them on pen and paper. Why is that? Because when you're audio listening, which is what you're doing to me right now, your vocal or your audio comes out of vocal. And when you see, she's getting her book out.
This is my journal. This is my every year goals journal that I look back. I love that you have it in your notes too, but I'm just a big proponent of writing it down. It does something with the brain.
It does. And that's it. When your audio, your visual, and your kinesthetic, which is your fingers, are all in alignment, moving the same direction. That's also why do you say your goals for 30 days? It has to do with that very same thing, because every time you say something, you hear something, and you believe, psychology will tell you, you believe what you say about you more than you believe what anybody else says about you.
Interesting.
So part of the Bible tells you to speak over yourself and make declarations over yourself and say you are who God says you are. But psychology says you need to make those positive affirmations. Science just catches up with the Bible. Psychology says you need to make those positive affirmations over yourself, because you need to hear yourself say it, because you believe you more than you believe anybody else. And you hear all the junk that they say about you. So you need somebody saying some good press about you, and it needs to be you, because there's a reticular activating system which resides in the base of the brain, and it believes what it hears, and it goes to work on autopilot. That's the part of your brain that controls your breathing that you weren't thinking about till just now. That's the part of your brain that controls your heartbeat. that you weren't thinking about till just now. That's the part of your brain that controls your blinking that you weren't thinking about until just now, but now you're suddenly aware of it and you're like, oh, my eyes dry. Actually, they feel kind of watery. I think my eyes are itchy, right? All of that because it brought it to our frontal lobe, but it's all being processed in that same part that hears you say the great things about yourself and says, okay, I am successful. I am motivated. I do have great energy. I am a money-making machine. People look at me and like me. The favor of God is on my life. I'm a blessing going somewhere to bless some people. And all of a sudden you have this energy to go even help other people. And if you've got a problem with being successful, let me ask you a question. How are you going to help people if you need a lot of help? Right? You start needing help, you get to level ground, and then you get to a place where you can be the hand to help other people. So I always say this, you should always have a hand up and a hand down. A hand up, going to that next level, with listening to Cammie's podcast right now, being involved in your hour of power, it works, and a hand down to somebody else, bringing them to where you're at. Because there's always going to be somebody above you and there's always going to be somebody below you. So if you're only reaching one direction, if you're only reaching this direction, okay, you might be a climber. Got it. You're all about your goals. Now make one of your goals about helping other people. But if you're all about, well, I can't do anything else, I can't, no. You need to go up higher so you can help more people.
That's good. That's really good. All right. So you tell me what order you want to go in, but I really love, and I think it's the first chapter, steak bones and hot dogs. How on earth, what do steaks, bones, and hot dogs have anything to do with goal setting, dreaming? What the heck is that?
Can I step off camera for 1 second?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Let me step off camera for 1 second because I'm going to come bother somebody. The person I wanted to bother is actually my little furry friend. This is my little 2-pound dog. And her name is Luppy, like puppy. Puppy with a P, Luppy with an L. So she's Puppy Luppy. Good morning. She was sleeping, taking a nap, minding her own business. And we have 2 dogs. My son and his wife live with us in Florida. They have 2 dogs. We have 4 dogs, and she is by far the smallest dog that we have. We used to have Dobermans. Guess who was the boss? The littlest dog. Why is the littlest dog in charge? Well, whenever we drop some food on the floor, she is the most vicious. So you might not look like you can accomplish your goals. But let me ask you this. Do you guys think that she likes bones? Of course she likes bones. They smell good. They taste delicious. They're awesome. She likes bones, but technically, no, she doesn't like bones. She likes the meat that the bones came out of. She likes the steak. And what's happened is a lot of us are living on the bones of life. Those scraps that are thrown to the side. This will be good enough to get me by. I mean, it's better than what I had before, but we don't go after the steak. And the fact of the matter is, you were not created to live on the bones of life. You were created to live on the steak of life. Mm-hmm. And hot dogs, how do hot dogs factor in? And this is the whole first section of the book talks about bones, steak, and hot dogs. So we were pastoring the church. We started pastoring a church of 180 people. It was my father-in-law's church. He passed unexpectedly. My husband and I didn't expect to be pastors. I always say God tricked me into ministry. And we were in our early 30s. We stepped into ministry. We had these 180 people. It was 2004. And all of a sudden, our church starts blowing up. And by 2007, we know we're supposed to plant another church somewhere. Our church is about 20,000 square feet. And we look at this building that is 125,000 square feet on the other side of town. Not to move to start a second campus. It was a $5 million building that had just undergone a $14 million renovation and was on the tax rolls for $19.5 million. It was appraised at $21 million. It was a $21 million building that was for sale for $6.3 million because the builders, the renovators had gone broke and it got foreclosed on. And as we were trying to think, how in the world are we going to come up with $6.3 million? This is just too much for us. And then in the book, I talk about how there was another building and it was the bones. And we thought maybe we could afford that, but really it would cost us a lot more to rehab it because you think you're getting by on bones and it's better, but really the bones cost you more. So we went ahead and we took some pastors up there with us and we walked through the building. And one of our pastors said, why would God show you a steak and give you a hot dog? That would be so cruel, and he's not a cruel God. So if you've got your eyes on some steak, a good position, some good relationships, some good friends, some good mentors, some good business opportunities, a good house. It's okay to have a nice house, a good car. It's okay if you if your car's going to stay together on the way to work, that's all right. And like, if you can actually press the accelerator and it goes, that's okay too. Right? So it's okay to have your eyes on some steak. God's not going to plant a desire in your heart. He said, the desires, I'll give you the desires of your heart. Why in the world would God give us the desires of our heart? Would you ever think of, maybe it's because he put them there? Maybe he put those desires there. No, not unholy desires. He did that. He is not going to give you the desire of your heart if it's your neighbor's husband. Just saying.
Are you sure? No, I'm just kidding.
But he might give you a man very much like your neighbor's husband.
Interesting. That's good. All right. So how much time have we been doing this for? I'm enjoying it.
Does it say up in the front?
Okay, good. We got plenty of time because, I don't want to leave this. Here's the deal. I want them to get your book because I'm such a believer in goal setting, and I love the simplicity of the process that you put here. And let me just tell you guys this, for all of us, we all have various gifts and strengths and things we like and things that are harder for us. And when I hear you talking about the frontal and the cerebral cortex, I think, oh my gosh, I was so happy to be done with science class back in the day. I don't want to hear about science anymore. But I also realize this is the total package that's going to help me get where I want to go. So, I don't want to leave today without getting them started on something, because the new year's right around the corner. And let's just talk about the white elephant in the room. I don't think this year has gone quite like anybody thought it would. And, whether or not you set goals last year and you feel completely disappointed now, like I've always said, the goals or the dreams never change. Sometimes the deadlines do, but we still got to keep that dream in our heart and realize that sometimes it's just not on our timing, and we'll never understand. But that part of that process is what equips us for whatever it is that we're dreaming about. And so that's my greatest heart right now, is I'm a huge belief builder, and I want people to believe that just because they set goals and the year didn't look anything like they thought it would, that doesn't mean they shouldn't be doing it this year. And I'm saying you should be doing it more now than ever. Like, you need it more now than ever. And the world needs people that believe they can. And, the world, just by us doing these simple things, are going to be blessed by our personal efforts, because they're watching what we do. We can say this, that, or the other, but if you're doing something that's life-changing, even in just your own life, the ripple effect is going to reach countless others, right? So give us a few practical steps we can do to get started. I know we're going to get your book, which I hope we can get your book sooner than later. If it's not, when is your book out?
Okay, so it officially releases December 1st, but here's the good news. I don't know where I put it when I went to go get the dog. The good news is, last Thursday, I actually got my first copy of the book, which means it is in print. And here's one of the good things about being with a small publisher. We talked, I'm like, ship the book. So the book is not released, but it's actually shipping. So I guess technically it's released. Don't tell anybody, because we're like releasing it in December, but you can get it before then, because it'll be available on Amazon and you can pay for it, or you can get it for free. The book is free. I'm giving you the book. You have to pay for the shipping, but I'm giving you the book for free. If you go to NicoleCrank.com/goals, you can get the book for free. It talks about steak bones and hot dogs. It talks about the 5 steps to finally getting what you want, which are, if you boil it way down to 5 words, it's goals, vision, action, commitment, reward. But if you look at what I call it in the book, it's a lot catchier. The word gets in it everywhere. But it's really goals, vision, action, commitment, reward. But then that sounds simple, but the expanded version of that, like just action plans. So goals, vision, action, really we develop a map. And a map is a 3-step process of measurement, assessment, and action planning. So you can't plan until you start measuring where you are today. So I'm a big firm believer in benchmarking. So I talk about benchmarking. I talk about why benchmarking. I talk about benchmarking the things you don't want to benchmark. I talk about how to see the growth in benchmarking, which actually leads to number 5, reward. If you never measure in the first place, you can never reward. And a lot of people quit because they never get a reward. So then we assess, we ask a million questions. We ask 25 questions about every single goal. and figure out how are we going to reach this goal. And that allows us to plan. Most people go, they open up some magazines, they start Googling, they make this beautiful vision board, but it's not actually a goal and they have no idea how they're going to get there. And then they don't. And then they're like, that was fun for a craft project, but it's not supposed to be a craft project. It's supposed to be a life-changing event.
That's right.
So it starts with goals. And then I have a productivity bundle, and that does cost some money, but it comes with the workbook, which asks a bunch of questions to help take you deeper and help you investigate. What are you trying to do? How are you trying to do it? Why are you trying to do it? Here, have you thought about this? So it really starts making you think. Then I have a digital planner that you can download and start planning. I am a paper planner person until we got this planner, and I've downloaded it into Photos where I can mark it up, and Notability. So I write all over, and I no longer have to carry my big, thick paper planner everywhere. And there's a masterclass where I dive into every single piece of this and take you a little further. So that's on the website. You can get it. But let me start walking you through the first step. And the first step is important. You can't do willy-nilly. You can't do it like you did every time, because there's a bunch of science and a psychology and Bible that backs it up, right? Kind of the audio, visual, kinesthetic, which increases a 70% implantation into the brain. You're going to remember it a lot better because you did all three at one time. So get out your pen, get out your paper. And while you're doing that, I'm going to give you a quote from J.C. Penney. And he said, if you give me a stock clerk with goals, I'll give you a man who's going to change the world. If you give me a man with no goals, I give you a stock clerk. So it doesn't matter where you start. Let's pull that out of our head. It matters where you're going. So you're going to try and listen to me and write your goals at the same time. Stop that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. We're going to get you ready. That's the only thing I don't like about you not having the book. I want you ready. Like we're going to do it fast and we're going to do it furious, but we're going to prepare before we go fast and furious. I go fast and furious everywhere. I'm 100 miles an hour all the time, but it's because I'm a planner and we take the time to plan and then we run hard. We work hard, play hard. So the very first thing about your goals is, number one, you're going to write them on pen and paper. Translate them to digital later, but pen and paper. Cammie's already got this. She does this. She's got her whole book, journal book. Be like Cammie. Be like
No, let's not say that. But yes, I say get your goals going for sure. No, I have it in my prayer journal, actually. I'm putting it as part of my morning time with the Lord. And again, I believe wholeheartedly, you guys, we can make all the plans in the world, but if we don't align them to what God wants for us, every plan we have will fall flat on its face. So, I would even say as part of the planning process, make sure you're praying and saying, God, man, I don't want anything you don't want. So because I agree, if it's put in your heart, he put it there, and sometimes it might not be for today. It might be for 10 years from now. But I think that if you put it on your heart, that it's definitely worth documenting. And and then too, I think that's where you can be in surrender also. I'm going to make these plans. I think that I've aligned with God, but I'm going to live in surrender knowing that these are my plans. And if it's not God's plans, it might not go where I want it to go. But yeah, I'm praying about it. I'm writing it down. I love the memory work that you're going to tell us about here in a minute, because I've never done that part.
And in knowing your goals is so important. Like I can rattle off my goals for this year, and just to take a quick hiatus. So I wrote my goals for this year. Here we were in January of 2020. Everything seemed normal. And two of my goals were, and I didn't know why, but I did pray about them. So I paused telling you how to tell you the story, but I'm going to pause telling the story to tell you. Now let me just continue the story for a second. So I had written these goals down, and I showed up at this conference. It's pre-COVID, right? So I showed up at this conference. One of my goals is to preach in Africa, physically on the ground, be in Africa and preach. I have no invitations. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I don't really know anybody in Africa. So, okay. Another goal is to minister in Ghana. Okay, I'm going to pause the story. So minister in Ghana, what does that even mean? I didn't know the difference between preach in and minister in, but I did know as I prayed about my goals, and I talk about it in the book, how do you pray about your goals and what are you looking for? Well, number one, how do you pray about your goals? You submit it to God. You say, God, I feel in my heart like I'm supposed to Now remember, your goals are supposed to be big enough to scare your head. So when you pray and you have fear, you have to determine, is that fear or is that lack of peace? Because it's supposed to scare your head, but be in your heart. So I'm like, God, I don't understand the difference between preach in Africa and minister in Ghana. Could this possibly be right? How do you know if God's giving you a green light? Well, the Bible says to be led forth with peace, right? Peace is what took Jesus through the crucifixion. It did not look right in the natural. It scared his head, but it gave him peace in his spirit. Peace is what made Noah build an ark. Did you realize the earth had never seen rain prior to Noah? They had never seen drops of water fall out of the sky. The earth became dewy from underneath. So how in the world is there going to be a flood? He doesn't know. And did you know it took him 600 years to build the ark? Because Jewish tradition says, if you're going to cut down a tree to build something, first you have to plant the tree and watch it grow. So he had to plant a forest, wait for the forest to grow, and then start milling the timber and turn the trees into timber, and then start building. And everybody was making fun of him. What did he have? His head was scared. His heart was at peace. The Bible says, be led forth with peace. You're not looking for a brain peace. You're looking for a spiritual peace. So I had spiritual peace about preach in Africa and minister in Ghana. I had no idea what it meant, but it didn't take God very long once I wrote it down and prayed about it. Here we are in January. I show up at this conference. And this guy walks up to me. Now, prior to that, I had gotten an email about some network picking up our TV show. And I'm like, sure, we'll talk about it, but I hadn't really. And this guy's name was Gavin or something. I don't know. And I met this guy named Andre. And Andre's like, hey, I'm Andre Robert. Nice to meet you. That's my imitation of a South African accent.
I thought we were in South America all of a sudden, but that's all right.
That's not. So he starts talking, and I didn't get it. And he's like, I'm Andre Robert. Yeah. I'm Andre Robert. Yeah. He's like, I'm the guy trying to put you on TV in Africa. I went, what? No, I've been getting emails from some guy named Gavin. He's like, no, I own the network. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, this is making sense. So we started talking, and he said, I want to put you on TV in Africa. We cover all of Africa, but we have 3 countries where we have incredible presence, like almost every television in South Africa, in Kenya, and in Ghana. And I was like, oh my gosh, I wanted to minister in Ghana. I think that's what this means. Goal number 1, check. Then he said, and I just built this 10,000 seat auditorium in South Africa. We're having the grand opening in May. I want you to come speak at this grand opening. What? You're kidding me. Check. Now, we are on TV there, and I haven't physically spoken there this year. They asked me to come again in November. Having a grandbaby, I can't go. So I'm going to go in 2021. But still, within a couple of weeks of writing my goals and praying about them, God's checking these things off the list that I had no idea what they really meant and how they were going to get accomplished.
That's good. No, that's really good. And I love, because I've heard often we overestimate what we can do in a year. We underestimate what we can do in 5, 10, right? And so again, the deadline sometimes changes, but the goal typically doesn't, especially if it's completely ordained, like you said, in the piece.
So you've got a piece of paper, right? I gave you some time, told you a story. If you don't have paper and pen by now, I'm not taking responsibility for this. So go ahead and take a note. You want to write it down on pen and paper. Second thing you want to do is you're only going to write 7 to 10 goals total. So minister in Ghana was one of my 10. Preach in Africa, one of my 10. One of my 10 was to preach with Jakes, Joyce, Joel, or Brian Houston. At not a women's conference, at a mixed gender conference. Even with COVID, that happened this year. I preached the Global Latino Leadership Summit to 20,000 Latino leadership people. And that was with Brian Houston. Then I preached for Cash and Sonia Luna, I preached their leadership summit, 11,000 people in Guatemala. So God can exceed your expectations in a wild way, but you got to write it down. And that was another one of my 7 to 10 goals. And you're probably thinking, but I have fitness goals. I have love goals. I have life goals. I have food goals. I have weight goals. I have reading goals. Well, you're going to have to qualify. Because why? If you chase too many rabbits, you lose them all.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got 7 to 10 goals in each of these areas, you're going to have a divided focus. So I want you to write down a statement. What you focus on tends to manifest.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't focus on everything at one time. So you have to focus on one thing at a time. So I was talking to a single mom at our church, and I had taught this seminar and all of these premises to our church in January of 2019. And she was actually there for the taping of the Global Leadership Summit, where I was teaching on these premises to all of these leaders. And she said, you know, I took all my notes and I did what you said, and I followed your program. And I've been a single mom, and for 12 years, I've lived in an apartment, and all I've ever wanted was a house for my child. But I had no idea how it would happen. She's like, I don't have a great job. I have a normal job. And I was $30,000 in debt. She's like, I wrote 10 goals. I want to let you know I have 9 of them. This was in May, I think it was. So like, what's that? 14 months later, 15 months later, she said, I want to let you know that I now own a home and I'm a single mom. She said, I want to let you know I was $30,000 in debt. And even with owning a home, I only have $4,000 debt to knock out, and I'm completely out of debt. And she said, once I get that one, my last goal is physical. She looked great to me, but she's got some physical goals that she wanted to hit. She's like, so after that, this is transforming. She had 9 out of 10 of her goals, including owning a home, which she'd been trying to do for 12 years. And somehow $30,000 debt turned into $4,000. And she's got a normal job. She's not a doctor, a lawyer, big time salesman, no, she's got a normal job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, God finds ways. Other people say the universe. Well, who created that? Sorry, that was sassy. So God finds ways.
Sorry, I loved it. I like the sass. Bring the sass.
What you focus on tends to manifest. So we're writing it on pen and paper. We're writing only 7 to 10 goals. Then we're going to set a timer. That's why you can't do it right now. We're going to set a timer, and we're going to do it in 3 minutes or less.
Mm-hmm.
Not 5 minutes or less, not 10 minutes or less. The reason you do it in 3 minutes or less, because in more than 3 minutes, you will talk yourself out of some of your goals. I can never minister in Ghana. I mean, I don't know anybody in Africa. How in the world am I going to preach with T.D. Jakes, Joyce Meyer, Joel Osteen, or Brian Houston? I mean, golly gee willikers, nobody's going to invite me to a platform like, what? No. You're limiting what God can do. And honestly, how would you like for somebody to be like, hey, I want a big pasta meal, but you can't cook it because I don't think you can handle it. That's basically what we're telling God when we're like, I want to write these goals, but I don't think you can handle it. How offensive, right? No, give him an opportunity. Give him an opportunity to show you things, move on your behalf, and then start talking to him about it. Pen and paper, 7 to 10 goals, timer, 3 minutes or less. Now, your goal has to be specific. Albert Einstein says, if your goal cannot be understood by a 6-year-old, your goal cannot be understood. So you have to take this big thing and drill it down to, I'm going to make, I don't know what your goal is going to be. I'm going to throw something, X number of sales today, a day, X number of sales a month, X number of sales over the year. It's got to be very specific in what you're going to do. But the language, the last thing, can't be, I am going to make. It's going to be in the present or the past tense. So where we're tempted to say what we're going to do, I'm going to lose 10 pounds, which actually you can't say you're going to lose 10 pounds. You have to put it in the present or past tense. Well, how would I do that? Okay. I could say, I'm going to weigh my perfect weight of, and then I'm not going to tell you what my perfect weight is because ain't none of your business, Kimmy.
I just put it out on my Instagram this morning. Now, granted, by the time this gets published, it will not longer be on my story, but I literally, September the 23rd, I started at 168.7 pounds and so overweight, Nicole, so overweight. And today I woke up and I'm at 149 pounds. I am 7 pounds from my ideal weight. And I did that so that if I gain a few back, it's okay. But I got super specific. And then like last night, I wanted to cheat last night. And then I woke up this morning and I had the reward of 1 pound lighter. And I went, thank goodness I didn't cheat. So it was reward because I measured. And listen, I didn't know we were going to talk about this today, But yes, this is exactly right. And it's funny because I didn't start this process in September, but that's how serious I am about it too, you know? And I think if we're serious about our goals, we'll be serious about the process.
What you focus on tends to manifest. What you focus on tends to manifest. And I know you're with a lot of business-minded people. So let's take it out of weight, which is everybody's goal. And let's go ahead and put it on business, right? Mm-hmm. So one of my goals early on is I made 20 cold calls a day. So I was just with some of my business fellows. Now you can plan to goal set. And for me to talk to the publishers and what's possible for us to stretch, I want to let you know, we took what we thought would happen and we doubled it. And I'm in that's in my head now. So when I actually go to write my goals for the next year, I'm going to probably land on double. We'll see how that goes, right? But how do we write it? So if you're in sales and you want to make a certain dollar amount, or you want to make a certain level, or you want to make us, a certain dollar amount year, month, week, you say, I make $50,000 a year through my It Works program. You say, I'm diamond level. I'm a diamond level salesperson. People look at me and like me. They want to give me their business. When people are thinking about investing and changing careers in their life, I'm one of the first people that they think of. So those are some declarations you can make over yourself later, but your goal goes into the present or the past tense.
I love that. Yep.
I minister in Ghana. I'm preaching live. I preach live in Africa.
Or, man, when I preached in Ghana, it was X, Y, Z, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, totally. I love that. Okay. So we do the 3 minutes. We write down our goals. What do we do then? What do we do next?
That's why, okay. So this book, I don't know where I put it. I need to get better at talking about things like this. Before we did this, guys, just to be honest, Cammie's like, we're going to talk about your book. I'm like, okay, yeah. And I'm like, oh, should I have one of those?
I said, if you do, get it.
Answer is yes. So, don't expect yourself to think of all the things. You get by with a little help from your friends, which is what I talk about actually in step 4. Commitment is having the right circle of friends and the right accountability partners, the right coaches and mentors in your life. But this book is not meant to be read straight through. Like, I got the book, I read it in 2 days. It's not the way it's meant to be read. You get the book, you read to a certain point, and then you do the work. So Cammie said, you're on tell me about your 30 days.
So I read the beginning of the book, and you said to do the 7 to 10 goals, which I was totally one that wanted to write down like 30. So there's that. And quite frankly, some I wrote down and I was like, I so believe this is going to happen, but I have no idea how this is going to happen. Do you know what I mean? Because at least but I'm going to go through those questions and I'm taking it step by step. But here's the deal. I wrote down my 7 to 10 goals. And I think it was on Saturday of last week or a couple days before, I started doing the thing where I wrote them down every day. I wrote them down in the present or past tense every single day. And I actually started doing it in my prayer journal because I really wanted to be a part of my morning process. And again, I want to continue to surrender it back to God. I want to continue to say, not my plans, Lord, but yours. I want to continue to say, give me the faith and the belief, as the process isn't always what I enjoy. Like last night when I wanted to cheat on my diet and I'm like, but again, so I've been doing that, and literally the first couple of days, I think I forgot a couple and I couldn't figure out what I forgot because you said I can't go back and read them. But then just like eventually they're coming to you. And now I'm at the Post-it note phase, and I'm going to post it all around my house because I'll tell you this, I know why you said to post it, but here's why I'm posting it. I want my kids to see my Post-it notes, because then I start seeing my daughter's Post-it notes all over the house, because she's also put it out there. And so I don't believe for 1 minute that God brings us through anything that he doesn't intend for us to bring others through. And I think for those of us that are parents, or we have family living in our house, or roommates, that's the first round, of people that we have an opportunity to influence. So you're either being influenced or you're influencing others. And so that's my way of this is going to hold me accountable, but this is going to take my kids to the next level too. So Post-it notes are in process, Nicole. And what is the other thing? I'm starting to put the measuring. Where am I at right now? And then so I can start tracking.
So let me tell you guys about the Post-it notes and the 30 days. So there's a process to it, right? It's not just willy-nilly. There's psychology, science, and Bible. Habakkuk 2:2. Write the vision. Make it plain upon the tables. So he can run with it. That's your action plan. That sees it. That's your vision board. So write, right? You're supposed to write it. So we're going to write it for 30 days. Again, it's the audio, the visual, and the kinesthetic. We're going to come together. We're going to write in pen and paper. And as you're writing it on pen and paper, you're going to write it on pen and paper. You're going to do it every day for 30 days, right? So Cami talked about, I couldn't remember. What does that mean? You're going to write them without looking back. So every day you're going to get up, you're going to write your goals. Number 4 is before work. Why? Because the devil of distraction will steal this from you. I'll do it tonight when I get home. I'll do it when I'll make it dinner. It takes 30 seconds. It takes 30 whole seconds. You can manage this. Just keep a pen and paper, or I put together some worksheets on my website. I think it's NicoleCrank.com/workbook, worksheet, I don't know. It's written in the book, or it's written in the workbook. It's something like that. You can go check it out. So there's these downloadable worksheets. You just put them on your printer. They're cute and they're fun. You put them in your journal. I try to make it fun. 30 days, pen and paper, before work, without looking back. The devil's in the distraction. So before work, I'm going to say it again. This is just coming up in me because there's people with a lot of good intentions, but they say, this is not a very nice saying, but they say that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Basically meaning good intentions don't get us where we want to go, right? It takes a little bit of work. And this 30 seconds of work. You can do 30 seconds for 30 days. I have faith in you for this. You can do it. Pen and paper before work. Write it down. Okay, 10 goals, 30 days, pen and paper before work. You're writing them in that present past tense, the voice that you did, without looking back. Mm-hmm. Why? Because you are going to have to search your mind. And here's the neuroplasticity. So here's the science behind it. Neuroplasticity, basically, if you take the brain and you think a thought, you know what? I want to go to the Bahamas. You just formed a neuron in your brain. And if you take a scan of your brain, a neuron can look like a black dot. And then every time you think about the Bahamas, I think I would like to go to the Exuma Islands. What just happened is that dot of a neuron started growing this little tentacle. I heard that the Great Exuma is great. I watched this movie and they were scuba diving. I want to go scuba diving in the Bahamas. I want to go snorkeling in the Bahamas. I want to go pet the shark on Compass K. I want to go see Thunder K that was in the James Bond movie. I want to go eat Bahamian food. I want to eat some conch. All of a sudden, all these tentacles are coming out of this neuron because every time you reinforce a thought, it builds a tentacle. This is why pornography is so dangerous. Every time you reinforce a thought, it builds a tentacle. Those tentacles go so deep in the brain, your thoughts will physically change. What it will do is it can cause the gray matter to fold in a different way because those tentacles are pulling on it. Your thoughts can physically change the composition of your brain. I did this Facebook Live, a webinar, and then we pushed it out to Facebook Live because the webinar got full. And basically I talked about a study where they did a study on MS patients. And they talked to these MS patients about ways to talk to themselves and ways to think. And then they talked to a different control group. Boil the study down because I know I'm talking a bunch of nerdy neuroplasticity, psychology, science stuff. Basically, the basis of the study said that the people who believed they were getting better, who believed that their body was improving, that they were speaking to their body, they did they decreased symptoms, they decreased weakness, they increased strength, they increased energy. Multiple sclerosis steals all those things from you. The people who did not do that, they stayed the same or got worse. It was true for both control groups. What is that? They're working the process of neuroplasticity in the brain. So that's why 30 days, that's why you write it down. That's why the audio visual, that's why you do it before work. That's why you do it and you make yourself think. And that's why you go ahead and put it on the Post-it notes. Once you finish your 30 days, you put it on your Post-it notes, you stick it all over the house and you start saying it out loud when you see it. And then you're reinforcing. And that's when you actually start moving on to that vision process and you start building your vision board.
Gosh, I love it. And a lot of us are good at doing vision boards, but we skip a lot of this process. And I think there's a reason, and I'm going to use the word you used in the book because it was a big aha moment for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, we take this far too casually. And I'm a big believer in if you don't tell your time where to go, and if you're not planning, if you're not organizing, then, something's going to happen, but it's not going to be what you want. And so I just thought, even though I believe I've done a number of these things at different points, and I think, again, you're already ahead of the game. If you're writing it down, you're in the top 3%. Yes, I know that 40 something percent more get their goals that don't, et cetera, et cetera. But here's what I believe wholeheartedly. I believe that this process will set you up and equip you not only to believe it, but to see it. And by often you're thinking the thought, it's in your soul, and you're like, whoa, but the fear is there, and you don't see it. You just don't see it, and therefore you don't believe it. And then you're not praying for it, right? And you're not working for it because you just don't believe it. And so I'm believing it. And there's some big things. There's some big things that I'm just like, oh Lord, you are going to have to step in, because I have zero idea of how that's going to happen. I'm actually scared for other people to know about it. And I like what you said about chapter 4. I haven't read chapter 4 yet, but I just read this morning in Matthew, do not give your pearls to pigs. And I believe there is a support group, but I also believe there's hater groups out there, you know, and some of them aren't even because they hate you. They just hate themselves, or where they're not at so much that you going after their dream makes them mad, you know? And so, I don't know. I'm seeking excited, and I wanted to get this out there ASAP, because this is a process that works, and it's not hard. It's fun. Every morning when I'm writing it down, Nicole, I'm literally like, I am going to be happily married to my best friend. I am going to have 2 more children, adopted, foster, and, or who knows, maybe God willing, a baby, you know, like I am 142 pounds. I am holding more than $5 million in my bank account. And I have this beautiful vacation house on Anna Marie Island because I want to have pastors and people that need a place to come and vacation. They have a place, and I don't have to ask anybody's permission to give them a place. You know, I just can do it. And I could go on and on, but that's because I've been doing it for 6 days. That's just 6 days. What's going to happen after 30, guys? Like, come on now. Mm-hmm. You say you want all these things, but you're too casual about it. So my question to you is, how bad do you want it? I mean, how bad do you want it?
You have to see it to be it. And you can't see it until you're convinced of it. And what you're doing right now is you are convincing yourself of it, so that you can see the $5 million home, and you can see inviting people. So you just described to me, not like a pipe dream. You can see the house, and you can see I can tell you can see the people in the house, and you're developing invitation lists. You have to see it to be it. And if we can see the invisible, we can believe the incredible, and we can achieve the impossible. But it starts with being able to see the invisible. That house isn't here yet. You don't own it. It may be built. It may not be built. It may be in the construction process. It might not be for sale. It's on the island, but it's not for sale yet. But if we can see the invisible, we can believe the incredible, and we can achieve the impossible. So you guys can see how Cammie is really, she's internalized this thing to the point where she can start seeing it, and she can start believing it. And here's the thing about believing it. It's called the endowment effect. I talked about it on the Facebook Live webinar. Cornell University did a study, and basically they gave all these college students these coffee mugs, and they said, hey, take this coffee mug. It's a gift, you're gonna love it. And they're like, hey, yeah, it's pretty cool. I really like my coffee. Just a water bottle, but really like my coffee mug. And then on the way out, they had this nice chocolate package, and they said, hey, we gave you that coffee mug, but we have these awesome chocolate packages. Would you prefer a chocolate package? And they're like, no, I like my coffee mug. So, okay, the coffee mugs are better than the chocolate. Nope. Bring in control to group number 4. Hey, we're really glad you guys are here. We're really thankful for you. We want you to take this great chocolate package. And they're like, oh, you did this for me. I love it. It's mine. I adore it. They finish the whole thing. They go out, and as they're leaving, they're like, you know, these other college students really like these coffee mugs. Would you like to trade us your chocolate package for the coffee mug? They're like, no, the chocolate package is mine. I mean, they really appreciated me with this. This is like an award and a gift. What is that? That's the endowment effect. What they did is they took it and they adopted it as their own. The goal setting process we use is endowing that goal into your life. You take it and you won't trade it. It's yours. You own it. And when people have something in their life like that, through the endowment effect, they will do things for that coffee mug. They will do things for that dog. They will do things for that chocolate. They will do things for that person. They will do things for that house. They will do things for that job that they would not do for anything else. So if you own this goal, you will do things for this goal that you would not have done.
Awesome. 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 Well, listen, this has been incredible. We could talk about the whole book right now, but then they wouldn't get the book. And I want them to get the book and apply the things that you've been teaching, because I think it's incredible. It's very simple too, you know, because sometimes this process can be overwhelming, especially for those that have never done anything like this before, right? Or maybe their family never did this, you know, and so they're just like, oh, I think this is for other people. This isn't for me. But I just want to give every single one of you listening right now permission to do this. I want to give you permission to put yourself out there. I want to give you permission to allow these steps to work for you. And I don't know why we as humans sometimes need someone to give us permission, but we do. And, you know, if you've had a spouse, if you've had a sibling, if you've had somebody just speaking things over you that are not true and you know it, but you can't figure out how to get away from it, a process like this will absolutely help you break free, and you deserve this. You absolutely deserve. Thank you for offering the book for free. I think that's really powerful and that will help so many people. As we're closing out our time, Nicole, any last things that you are just like, you know, I want to say this to you, or I want to leave you with this thought, what would that be?
Well, first of all, I don't want to take all the credit for giving the book away, because there was one generous person who believed in this message. And that's why it's important to believe in one another. As we were talking about that accountability, as we were talking about step 4, the immense value in step, simply not quitting. There's another word for it, commitment. People don't like that word. So it's the immense value of simply not quitting. I did a message on YouTube. You're welcome to go see. It's on YouTube. It's called Don't Give Up, Get Up. It's basically all about the immense value of simply not quitting. It's in addition to things that are in the masterclass. It's in addition to things that are in the book, because as you know, you can only write so much of one part of a book on a subject. You can only talk about it so much for an hour, but there's immense value. That's what I want to get across to you. We didn't talk about today. There's immense value in simply not quitting. Success is simply doing the right thing one more time than you did the wrong thing. Success is not always standing up and never falling. Success is just getting up one more time than you fell down. You can fail forward. The fact that you're failing means you're trying. If there is no failure in your life, there is no growth in your life. If we're given permission today, I want to make sure you have permission to fail. You have permission to miss your goals, but I don't believe that you're going to. But, you know, my financial goal for this year in terms of how many books we were going to sell, we did, I don't know, 55, 60% of that. It's not the end of the year yet. Don't limit God. But I'm okay with COVID, right? We were going to slaughter that goal, and then COVID. And then a pivot where one person who believed in me came and said, people need God now more than ever. I want to give the High God book away. And we started giving the High God book away. And then we developed this circle of friends. And then I have a whole group of people now called my circle of friends, and they help give the books away. So I don't get all the thanks for that. I only get part of the thanks. I get the thanks of working with this publisher, the publisher I'm working with for my new book. So one of my goals for 2021, I know, I don't even have to write it down, is that I am a best-selling author. I don't know if it's New York Times bestselling. I don't know if it's Amazon bestselling. I don't know if it's USA Today bestselling, but none of my other books have ever been what's called book scanned. They're not even eligible. This next one goes out with a major publisher. It's eligible, and put myself really out there, y'all.
Why does a pastor want to be a best-selling author? That is so ego.
No, I'll tell you why. I want to be a best-selling author because I need that credibility. I need the credibility so that people will actually read the material. And if people will read the material, their life will be changed. That's why. So I'm going to do it one time. I'm going to do it that way one time. And then I'm going to go back to the way where I can keep giving stuff away. As long as my circle of friends stays around me, I'm going to keep giving stuff away. So you can get it for free by going to NicoleCrank.com/goals. And then if you're super serious, then you can buy in and you can get the workbook, the digital planner, the masterclass. And then, I'm also doing a live Zoom Q&A session in December for the people who get the productivity bundle. So if you're ready to buy in, you can do that, but it's available to everybody. Everybody can afford free and some postage. Good luck finding a book like that in Walmart cheaper.
There you go. Well, I want you all getting your goals written down, and I want you taking the 5-step process. And I'm excited to hear the stories that are going to come out of this.
Thank you. Hey, thanks for the opportunity. And I'm just really thankful to God that I met you. And we're getting ready to spend some more time together. So we're probably going to end up like the Bobbsey twins.
Well, what is so funny, you guys, I have to admit, yesterday I get a text from Nicole as I'm snuggling into bed, and which is way earlier than Nicole is snuggling into bed because she's a late nighter. But by the way, I have to talk to you about your story post yesterday where you're putting on makeup because your husband was coming home. I was like, yeah, maybe that's what happened in my first marriage. I wasn't putting on makeup when he was coming home. But no, she's like, hey, I don't know if you can come tomorrow. And I was like, tomorrow? We're doing a podcast tomorrow. Where am I coming tomorrow? Aren't you supposed to be podcasting with me? And she's like, oh yeah, wrong day. Okay, good. I was like, see, it happens to all of us.
I was completely in the wrong day. I lost an entire day on the calendar. And today's the day we celebrate my daughter-in-law's birthday. I don't know where I was.
We'll have so much fun. Thank you for prioritizing this. Can't wait to get it out. And more importantly, I can't wait to hear the stories come running in, rolling in, running in, however you say it. It's gonna be good. Yes, mine included. I put myself out there, and I haven't been healed or whole enough for a while enough to be able to put myself out there like that again. So I'm excited.
Well, I just want to be invited to the wedding.
Okay, don't hold your breath right now. We're not. Yeah. No, don't hold your breath. I want to keep you around a little bit longer. But yes, all right, that sounds good. Putting it out there. It's one of my goals. Happily married to my best friend. So there we go.
You are. I believe
I am. All right. Thank you.